of the most commonly forgotten threats here on Europa is also one that is commonly close to our hearts as well, and sometimes our hearts are in them whenever they feel like they need to eat their unfortunate jockeys. Of course, I am speaking of our rather erroneous companion, our local submarine shears, the veritable dinosaur of the European oceans, the Mudraptor. The life of the Mudraptor often starts like many creatures here on Europa, though its upbringing is far more positive than many of its counterparts on this moon, being one of the few creatures on Europa that shares its nest with not only its parents, but a larger brood as well. Young Mudraptors are well taken care of, mostly due to their intensive life cycle that the eggs go through, though unlike crawler and thresher eggs that can hatch rather rapidly, Mudraptor eggs have multiple stages that they go through during growth. As an egg, young Mudraptors will often remain fixed to the walls of a well-prepared cave covered and fortified by molten Mudraptor shells. The eggs are able to resist any current of their European waters, firmly bound to the rock walls of the brood's nest by a thick form of secretion, either produced by the egg itself or applied by Mudraptors tending to the nest. At this point in their life, young Mudraptors are unable to feed themselves and require food to be gathered for them. This nest in particular is a rather unique makeup of its population, comprising of multiple Mudraptor veterans where most nests would only have one or two to hunt. Mudraptors will often leave the nest in a multitude of hunting groups, usually consisting of about 3 to 5 members being the most typical, with some even being led by a Mudraptor veteran. When they are out on the hunt, there is little that the Mudraptor fears, even being more than willing to take on large groups of crawlers and even threshers, despite the possible injury and detriment to their numbers. But, regardless of how many fall, there will always be small victories in the embattlement of nature. With frayed shells and cracked jaws, the Mudraptor hunting party returns with their bloody spoils. While the injured and veterans rest, it's up to the rest of the brood, those who are left to guard, to feed the ever-snapping eggs. As, unlike many other eggs on Europa, those that cocoon a young Mudraptor have a small gaping mouth on the top side of the egg, allowing for a accelerated growth, depending on what they are fed. Depending on the success of this nest, this cycle may go on for months, but with the one we are observing, it seems hatching will occur sooner rather than later. When first hatched, the Mudraptor is rather playful to those it considers family, though not so much to a unfortunate wayward diver. During this time in its life, the young Mudraptor will often spend much of their time in their nests and nearby tunnels, though even these tunnels aren't always safe. Many other life forms here on Europa call these tunnels home, like the deep light angler or the pompadour fish, some of a young Mudraptor's most favorite snacks. Though, crawlers and threshers can also find themselves in these cramped caves, often searching for a nesting site to call their own, though these searches are often fruitless for those individuals, finding only occupied spaces and hungry mouths in a cramped space that they will have trouble escaping from. Provided that a Mudraptor pup survives any external threats, the young Mudraptors will spend their time eating many unfortunate fish and divers brought to them by the larger Mudraptors in the nest. And as they molt and become larger, they will develop sturdy plates from eating local deposits of hydroxophyte, a material that proliferates the caves and upper tunnels of Europa, and is something that acts akin to a salt lick for Mudraptors in order to maintain their shells. Mudraptor young will spend their next 6 months to a year in these tunnels as they grow into adults large enough to join the larger Mudraptors on hunts and replenish their numbers in a nest, as well as finding opportune partners to sire the eggs of the next generation and one that is hopefully stronger. Though other Mudraptors may prefer to leave the nest, or get pushed out by strong rivals, the loss of one's home isn't enough to put off a determined Mudraptor. Like their rival species crawlers and manti, Mudraptors have begun to make use of abandoned human structures in the tunnels and downed submarines. And while these structures may be weaker than the dense stone walls that most caves are yielded from, these nesting sites provide optimal locations for not only hunting prey, but scavenging valuable corpses that happen to drift by in the tunnel's strong currents, something else that these sites also protect from. And while this is the life of some Mudraptors, due to humanity's arrival on this moon, Mudraptors have also taken up a variety of roles alongside humans. In fact, some of them make rather great companions, despite their large, predatory size, though they often are not allowed on submarines due to safety concerns, and the temperament of the Mudraptor itself, though this doesn't seem to be the same for the Mudraptor race circuit. Any and all concerns about Mudraptors seem to go out the window, with many of the riders commonly getting eaten or taken into a murderous swarm, so to speak.